Welcome back, everybody. And I would like to take this time and personally thank our next guest. I will certainly talk about this a lot in the outro or in the intro on the podcast side, but tonight, a great friend, and I know this person is a great friend of Aaron's Opinion, a great friend of Blind with a Vision. You guys remember I had the honor and privilege of speaking with Anna a couple weeks ago. Well, now we have a great friend of hers, Alex Castillo, joins us from Mexico, I believe. Welcome to Aaron's Opinion. So generally, what I tell guests and where I like to start these episodes is, so who is Alex Castillo? Who are you?
Hello, Aaron. First of all, thank you so much for thinking about me about this interview. And
My pleasure.
well, I am Alex Castillo. My name in my full name is Alejandro Castillo, but people call me Alex. So I am Alex Castillo. I live in Mexico in the city of Puerto Vallarta, which is a town on the Pacific coast in the west side of Mexico. And well, I hope that I am able to explain myself because my English, I mean, it's not that fluent, or
I've
as
told you
not as
no,
fluent as
no,
I
no.
should.
I've told you. Unfortunate. No, you see, Alex. Did you know that I'm an English teacher and I teach English as a
Oh
second
yes.
language? So let me tell you, you aren't going to be able to get off the hook with the excuse of your English isn't good enough because that's not true. Your English is fine. So,
Thank you.
so unfortunately, you can't use English as an excuse. Your English is fine. Your English is perfect. Um, I notice that you speak to me very clearly, and I understand you perfectly. And you know what? And don't be nervous. Don't be shy because it's a podcast. So it's an art form. So you know what? None of this is edited. So it's just go with the flow of the conversation. It's really okay. So
Very
I became by the way, I forget of all the people that I speak to all over the world. I forget what I've told you. So if I'm repeating myself, sorry for that. But I was born blind myself with glaucoma and a congenital heart defect. I'm 30 years old and I live in the universe. How did you become blind, Alex?
okay. Well, so what happened with me is I was born a regular guy, and when I was about 30 something years in my late 30s, I had a what would be like a tiny accident. I got I got hit with a tennis ball on my eye, on my right eye, and this caused me to have some blood on my eye. I didn't know exactly how bad was that, but I went to the doctor and he said, "Well, your eye is fine, but you lost some blood, and it's kind of making things look bad because I couldn't see." And he recommended me that I should have some sort of surgery to clean up the area because apparently the blood was affecting some area in the retina. That at least that's what I understood. So his recommendation was that I should get this surgery, which shouldn't last more than 30 minutes. And after that, I should be fine. And I didn't know what to think at that moment, but I totally felt like this was the way to go. I didn't go to get any other, opinion about whether should I have this surgery or not. And so what I did is on the next weekend I went over to Guadalajara, which is a nearby city. It's about probably 300 miles from where I live. That's the second largest city in Mexico after Mexico City. So I thought to myself that well, it was a good city and that the hospitals were good there. So I didn't think that anything could go wrong, right? So um, I entered into this hospital, and they told me that by noon I should be out and okay. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case because while in the surgery, something went wrong with the equipment that they were using, and a 30-minute surgery turned out to be like almost an 8 hour surgery because they didn't have the proper equipment to continue the surgery. And actually, I was in danger of losing my eye because imagine that you have your eye and it's like a balloon, and all of a sudden they pinch it and it just gets completely without air, and that's basically what happened. I lost a lot of liquid that it's the one that keeps the pressure in the eyeball. So they try to do well many procedures. I guess I cannot explain them, but at the end, what happened is that I was really, really, bad because I almost lost my eye, and I am not going to get too much into this, but they did something that it affected my optical nerve, and eventually that made me lose my sight completely, not only from the right eye but also from the other eye, the left eye. And so I basically, what happened is that I lost my sight uh, from one day to the other. Next day I was totally blind, and although they told me that we might be doing something to fix the problem, after three more surgeries and about a year of, well, I have to say it this way, of suffering this situation, I eventually I was told by another doctor that I should just let go because there was no way I could recover my sight. And well, it was very, very frightening situation for me. At the moment, I was well, I am a systems engineer, so that means that I am into computers. And at the moment, I was the manager for a big company here in Puerto Vallarta that handles all these sort of tourist, well, trips and all sort of touristic adventures and activities. So it's a big company, and well, I was full of things to do. So at that moment, I was afraid of what was going to happen with all the things that I had to do during the week. Eventually, after the first week and the second, I realized that this was going to take a little bit longer. And after a year, I just, well, got to a point in which I understood that actually my job wasn't the first thing to worry about, but actually I should be worrying about my life. What was going to happen with me? Because obviously, when they told me that there was no way that I was going to recover my sight, this is a life changing thing that made me really, be in shock. Before that, I was kind of calm. I was trying to do many things as a blind person, but without even thinking that I was blind. I was always with the thought that I was going to recover my sight. I even had I don't know, I was crazy enough to go out of my house and, call a taxi and get into the taxi and go to a mall or to a bank and without even a white cane, just by asking the driver or whoever was around to help me get to the door and stuff, to just perform many activities that I was, very used to do before I had this problem. And it was okay for me. I mean, it wasn't easy, but at that moment, I didn't see it as something really, really bad, because I had always the belief that I was going to recover my sight. So when I finally realized and I was told that this was never going to happen, Um, then I started to think what's going to happen with me. I talked to my boss, which is the owner of the company, and he told me, maybe we should start doing the paperwork so you can retire because of this, situation. And I agreed because I didn't know anything about disabilities, nothing. I mean, when you are in the university, when you are, in your profession, unless you are told that you need to find out about something extra, like for example, disabilities, sometimes you will see it, but not so deep that you can understand what are the options for people with disabilities. So at that moment, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even I didn't think that or knew that there was such a thing like a talking computer or software that could read you the screen, a screen reader, right? So I was totally lost in that arena, and so the first thing that I thought is to myself is, well, this is goodbye for me. This is the end of my life, and I'm never going back to work. So at least I should have something that I can live on. I mean, this retirement and all these benefits that they give you when you are on what we call here in Mexico a social security base, right? It's like it's something that they pay you afterwards, and you can live on that money. So anyway, at that point, I was covered on that. However, I didn't know what to expect from that moment on. Uh, I had two choices. One was going to Chicago, try to find a blind school there, and the second was going to Mexico City. And my thoughts at that moment were, well, you live in Mexico City. City is, well, no, I didn't live in Mexico City. I was living here in Puerto Vallarta as well, but I was like, okay, I live in Mexico. Mexico's reality is different from that in the United States. So it's better if I go to a Mexican blind school because I'm sure that they're going to be able to teach me exactly how to handle Mexico's streets, and the way we move from one place to the other. And I wasn't wrong. I mean, actually, it was a good choice because I mean, I have to say that I had good training there in Mexico City. I found out that the biggest blind school in Mexico was actually in Mexico City. It's called the National Blind School. That's like a government school that receives people from all over Mexico. It is it's like a nursing home because they receive all the people. You can live there, you can eat there. They provide you with everything. And yet, at that moment, I didn't feel like staying at school. So my second choice was to attend school every day on a regular schedule and go back home with my family. In this case, my brother's house. So I took that choice because at that moment you feel so insecure. You really have no idea on what's going to happen with your life. And I was a little, let's say, straight. I was afraid that eventually all my loved ones would, kind of get bored of me and just leave me alone there. So I said, well, I better stay at my brother's house. At least he won't forget me. And so that's what happened in the very first year. Actually, once I was in Mexico City, it took me about 6 months to be able to enter school because they were on strike. And as strange as it sounds, yeah, the students in blind school were on a strike because they used to have several, you know, workshops and stuff that they were taught, and the new administration was taking out all these benefits, and so they were, you know, complaining about that, and they closed the school. And it was weird. I didn't know what to do. I was like, is there another blind school here that I can go to? And unfortunately, I would say that not only in Mexico but everywhere, from what I know now, blindness or any other type of disability is virtually, you know, transparent to people. It's just that people don't see it. They unless they become blind or they have a you know, a relative that has become blind, uh, people don't care about this type of situation. So if you ask one a person, you know, if there's a blind school here, well, they will tell you, I don't know, because it's not something that people has have on their minds. And the other thing is that, well, at that moment, I wasn't able to use my computer by myself. So obviously, I had to depend on others, and possibilities for me to find out other schools in the Mexico City area was virtually impossible. I mean, it wasn't easy for me to do that. So I had to wait until that school reopened. But the nice thing about this is that the first time I got into school, they gave me the tour through all the school, because let me tell you, this school is in the is a very, very old school. And they showed me around the school, and okay, I'm sorry. Something
It's
happened with my
it's
connection.
it's fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, it's fine. It will,
Okay,
when
excellent.
we go back to the recording, it will not be noticeable. The software, it's really weird, but the software actually kind of corrects that, kind of feeds that out, so that won't be noticeable at all. That will be less noticeable once we go back to it. So, okay, so yes,
Oh, okay. So,
go right from
so
there.
do you? Okay, well, so I was telling you that I got into school, and the first time they gave me the tour through the building, which is a very, very old building, a three-story building, very, very big, with two patios and lots of classrooms and, you know, rooms and everything. And the first thing I've noticed is that they told me, okay, so here at the entrance we have the computer lab. And I was like, what do you mean a computer lab? What do you need a computer lab for in on a blind school? And they said, well, we all have to learn how to use a computer. And I was in shock because I never thought that that could be possible. So they introduced me to the computer room. I was so excited. I find out about JAWS software, the Freedom Scientific software, and I was so happy that I couldn't wait to get home and try to somehow get this program and a new computer to use it in at home, you know. So since I was able to, I mean, I was very, you know, into computers. All it took me was just to get used to the, you know, audio interface, and basically that was it. I was up and running by next week. I was already using my computer, and well, trying to learn how to use this screen reader, because obviously I was used to use the computer with a mouse, and I would always be like, what you see is what you get. So at this point, I wasn't told that all these labels sometimes are labeled differently than from what people actually can see on the screen. So the first thing that I did was getting into my Hotmail account, which I thought that I would never see it again. And it was so powerful and I was so happy. It was just almost as if I recovered my sight. I was very, very happy. And from then on, I was very happy to go to school and try to learn new things. I started learning Braille and, all these activities, what they call here in Mexico, um, they call it home activities. And also, the basic orientation and mobility training, which I was kind of afraid because I had no idea what to do and how to do it. Even though I bought myself a cane, uh, I was new to that part as well. But fortunately, being on my brother's house, staying there made me, go out on the street because for starters, I had to go every day to blind school. So at the very beginning, I had to hire someone to take me back and forth from school, and after that, I would just try to go to the grocery store and buy some stuff for myself. So that's how I got into the blind world. And but I have to say that even though blind school is Mexican blind school is good, the most important part of it is when I got into the virtual world, because um, let me put an example. When I was trying to get the software at school, nobody could tell me how to get the software. So someone told me, I know a guy that is on the university and he might be able to help you. So I called him and he said, well, yeah, let's meet on the library, which is it's called Librería Mexico, or Mexico Library. That's a big library that has a special area for blind people. And I got there and I met so many people, so many nice people, especially, and I have to say it this way, especially, students from university, from high school. And that was also something very surprising to me because, you know, going back to the very beginning when I lost my sight, I have to say that at least in Latin America, when you lose your sight, basically everyone sees you as a people that is handicapped, or also it's a people that cannot get a job, that depends on people's pity. And you see lots of people, sighted people, begging for money, for help on the street. Some of them will be, kind of selling candies, but they know. I mean, they know that people is not interested in buying candy, but they see that you are a blind person, and obviously they will try to help you. They feel like helping you, and many people will, kind of buy the candy, but they won't pick the candy. And let's say you are going to charge or you're going to ask for, say, 50 cents of a dollar, and they will give you $1 or $2 or whatever. So pretty much this is the way many people, unsighted or blind people, live in Mexico. And I was afraid that this was going to happen to me at the moment that I had a good job and I had a very good way of living. I had a nice house, And so I didn't think of myself as I had to go that way. However, the first person that I talked to in Puerto Vallarta about my blindness, that person told me, you should get together with these guys that I know. It was a bunch of blind people that, well, now they are my friends. Unfortunately, they weren't as lucky as I am that I could get, an academic, education, university and that. And so they actually had to do that type of work that I am telling you. They would have to go on the streets or get into the buses and ask for money. And so when I got there with them and I met them, they told me, "Well, what do you do? What can you do? Can you sing? Can you play the guitar?" Or and I was like, "No, I cannot do any of those things." And they would say, "Well, don't worry, we're gonna teach you." So that was really, really, I mean, overwhelming for me because I felt, their empathy on one side, but on the other side, I knew that I didn't want to go that way. So when I went to Mexico and I met all these young guys, students, and I found out that, life is not, you don't, how to put this, there's not an end in your life when you lose your sight, but it just changes the way you live it. So I was very, very thankful with all these people because they showed me a better way to face life. And from then on, I got in communication with them and with other people through the internet, and I started learning a lot of things. And I am so fortunate now that I can now take all these learnings and share it with people that are less blessed than me. Right now, I am running a nonprofit association for the blind here in Puerto Vallarta, and that's one of the things that I am, focusing the most in making sure that any blind person that gets to the office is aware and is told that life is going to be a little different, but it doesn't have to be worse or bad. It's just different. And especially with kids, especially when talking to parents when they have a child and it's born blind, it's really hard talking to these moms and dads that they are crying because they don't know what's going to happen with their son. And so that's when we come, to the rescue, if we may say it, because we try to make them aware that there is hope. There are many things that they can do, and that we in the organization we're gonna make sure that they get the proper information and all the help we can provide, so they can overcome this bad situation. And well, I am talking too much. I don't know if you want to ask me something about this.
Well, you can never talk too much on my podcast. This is the podcast where I'm trying to get guests to talk. So that's good. It's like pulling teeth getting the guests to talk. So but you speak really well, and I think several, because you did such a beautiful job telling your life story. Of course, I have several comments that I want to make about this. Unfortunately, I'll start off with the unfortunate stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised. How you became blind, and your experience with doctors and experience with medicine. That unfortunately happens to not just you, but that happens to a lot of people around the world. Unfortunately, it's a big problem where people go
Yes.
in for what should be a routine eye surgery, and because of lack of technology, or perhaps, I'm not saying this was your situation at all, but perhaps lack of medical knowledge of a doctor, or in some situations, both, the patient doesn't do well. Or in other cases, that's just life. And, they really did do the best they could, which is probably what happened. The doctors probably did their best, but for
Yes.
several, underlying reasons, you say you lost your vision just because of getting hit in the eye with a tennis ball. Well, who knows? Maybe your eye was, we never know. Maybe your eye was already, maybe there were some underlying eye, ophthalmology issues that maybe you didn't realize, you didn't know, or maybe that's life. Unfortunately, this is, the thing that I must tell you, from the bottom of my heart, man, is I was born blind, like you were saying there a moment ago. So I can't really comprehend what it must be like to be a sighted person because I never was, and then I can't understand what that must be like to to have to become blind and have to change your life. But the important thing is that you realize that blindness really is not the end, and that we still have to go about our business. Whether you're in Mexico or America or Canada or wherever you are, the sun still comes up the next day. We have to find other ways of doing the same thing, of being successful and getting things done and working and things like that. So, um, and what else can you tell me specifically about, your nonprofit, as you say? How does it work, and where can people learn about it, and what types of projects do you work on, and like how does all of that work?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Well, yeah, you're right. The sun always come up. So, yeah, well, the nonprofit organization that I am running is, it was created in 2011. And at the moment, um, well, after several years of being blind, because I lost my sight on 2004 could be. Yeah, it was finishing 2003 and beginning 2004. And well, after several years, I came back to Puerto Vallarta. By the way, when I was at blind school, I met this beautiful girl and we fell in love. And after going out for almost a couple of years, I asked her to marry me and we got married. And then we both came to Puerto Vallarta. So she's blind. She was born blind. And the nice thing about that is that, well, I came back to Puerto Vallarta not alone, but with a companion. And the other thing is that obviously I knew that just living out of my pension wasn't enough. So I was thinking to look for a job, and for about 3 years, I kept looking for a job, and I just couldn't get any. I used to have a lot of friends here in Puerto Vallarta. Some of them very important people in the business of hotel business and traveling. And it is so sad to say it, but yes, I mean, when you just lost your sight, everybody comes over to see you and tell you whatever you need, just let me know. And I remember at some point one of them telling me, Alex, don't worry, we're gonna get you a guide dog, and I'm gonna give you a job, so don't worry. And I was like confident about that because I thought to myself, well, if he's offering that, probably it's because it's not that difficult. Eventually, I knew that, well, getting a guide dog is not as easy as that. Obviously, this friend didn't know about that. He was just thinking about what he had seen before, people with a guide dog. But unfortunately, the second part of his offer, which was offering me a job, at the end couldn't happen because actually he didn't know what to do with me. I mean, he had no place to put me because he didn't have any idea on what was my capabilities. Even though I am a systems engineer, at that moment you are not thinking as just, well, this guy has an education and he should be able to perform several things, and that he doesn't need the sight, the to see, to look at things. But at that moment, you just, you know, kind of froze yourself, or in this case, him, and we didn't know what to do. And eventually, that opportunity just got lost because he didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And but you know how lucky I was that at some point a friend told me, I heard that in the government, there's a government agency here called DIF that it's intended for helping families in different type of situations, social situations, and one of those is health. And he told me that they were looking for a person to teach people different skills for blind people. And I was like, oh, really? Well, I can teach them computer. And when they heard about that, they were so happy because actually that's what they were looking for. They were looking for a computer teacher, and they didn't have anyone with that expertise. And so basically, I was the only one blind in Puerto Vallarta that knew how to use a computer. And so they offered me a job. Obviously, at the very beginning, they couldn't offer me, a salary because, in Mexico, government works different than in other places. So they knew they have the need, but they didn't have the budget to offer something. And I said that's okay. I don't mind about the money because actually, when I left the blind school, I promised to myself that I wouldn't let any other blind person that I knew to go in the wrong direction, because at some moment I made this thinking about what would have happened if I had known what to do in case you lose your sight and you are still on a job like myself. I mean, I was in a totally um, management position. And so all I had to do is use the computer. I knew how to work around in the business. So basically I had everything. And if I needed something extra, well, I could always ask my secretary. But at the moment I didn't know that. So that's why I retired. And after a few years, I thought to myself, well, what would have happened if I knew what I know now at that moment? Probably I would have asked my boss, give me 6 months or give me 3 months. And I promise I'll be back and I will continue doing what I do. And you will not notice a slight difference. But obviously that never happened. So I thought to myself, well, if there's anyone out there that needs to know anything about blindness, I want to make sure that I can meet that person and I can help them and let them know what are their options. So when they offered me this job, I accepted immediately, and well, I worked like for about 6 months without receiving any pay, but I was happy. I was very, very happy. And after that, well, things got better. And by meeting all these people, eventually I got into the blind organization here for Puerto Vallarta, and eventually I become kind of the director for this organization, and that's what I am currently doing. I don't get any pay out of that of this job on the organization, but it's okay for me because on the other hand, I have to say that when you lose your sight, somehow, even though you can go to rehab and think that you have accepted everything the way it is right now, you still have to have some sort of fuel to make your life work. And this fuel is the chance to help other people, because at some point you in my case, because of my age, I got you know, there was a time when I was kind of feeling not so healthy, and I didn't want to quit. I just wanted to keep on going, and and try to do my best, and that makes you that works miracles on you, because when you feel that you are needed, somehow your body gets that reaction, that feeling, and you really get better when you are. And I can tell you this by experience of others, because I have received many people, when they lose their sight, they feel that that's the end of their lives, and then they are struggling with their parents or with their, with their families, and they stay home and they don't go out, and they are sad, and they are so overwhelmed by all this loneliness. And even though you go there and talk to them, sometimes you are kind of late, because they get several, they get sick. And at some point that they, well, I have, I met like two or three guys, very sad cases in which they just died. And I would say that they died because they were so sad, and they just didn't have the will to keep on living, to 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 feel that they are, what would be the word, necessary for other people to 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 be around, and I've read about this, and definitely, yeah, that's one thing that you have to have in your life. You have to try to help others so that you can feel good about yourself, and at the same time you are taking care of somebody else. At least if you are not going to be able to help people like myself, that I work on an organization, it's good to have a pet, because as crazy as it may sound, I mean, having a pet that you have to take care of, I mean, it gives you the will to keep on fighting, to stay healthy, to stay focused on living, and knowing that if you die at this right moment, what's going to happen with your pet? And well, it's it's really something that I have noticed, and I can say that it's true. I mean, it's not something that people, psychologists or people that work on this area tell you. Is not just talking. It's true. And well, that's what I am doing right now. With this lockdown, I've been for 1 year and a half in my house, and it's been hard as well. It's difficult because, especially when you are talking to people and you are trying to teach them, especially if you're trying to teach them a computer or a telephone, how it works. Um, it's not easy when you are going through a Zoom connection. It is important because at least you talk to their parents or to someone that can see you on the camera, and you can show them and somehow guide them through the basic steps so they can start, getting some help and something to work on, like for example, a telephone can do miracles with the blind community, because, well, I'm not going to tell you what you already know, what many things you can do with a telephone and a bunch of apps. So that's what I am doing right now. From time to time, if possible, I go out to schools and talk to, to people, to students, to teachers, to the principal, because that's the other way that we have to help. Sometimes students, they want to go to school, parents want to take their children to school, but unfortunately in Mexico there are many people that they don't know anything about, disabilities, and when they receive a student, a kid that is blind, they say, well, what am I going to do with him? There's no way I can teach him. And even though there is an area in the government and in the education, um, you know, education part of the government, or I don't know how to say this.
Perhaps
Well, in this,
Ministry of
the yeah,
Education.
that's right. The Ministry of Education, they do have programs in which they include people with disabilities. However, this doesn't get to schools in the best way, because sometimes, the teachers, they either are closed or narrow-minded, or they
Yeah.
simply
Yeah.
don't have any idea. And
Mm-hmm.
the easiest way to go is just to tell the kid, no, you cannot be here. And once you tell them, and you talk to somebody else upward in their school, they receive the child, but still we have to take care of that area as well, because there's nobody else who can teach them how to handle this type of situation with kids. So we help them. We get you know specialized people in education for the blind, and so we provide with some seminars and things that can help the teachers. And well, that's basically what we do. And I think that so far it's working. It's not as good as we would like to, because definitely there are many other social situations that are affected by people. For instance, when they, as teachers, they think that, well, okay, this guy is blind, so I'm gonna go easy on him, and even if he, I'm gonna test him, and even if he fails, I'm gonna let him pass, because I mean, he's not gonna be able to do anything else. So, and that's wrong. I mean, they should push us just like anybody else, and make sure that parents, teachers, and everyone is concerned about these kids, that they need to do their best of their efforts to accomplish what any other kid can do. So, well, that's a different topic, but yes, definitely
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah,
working on that arena.
you're absolutely right. I mean, the same is true even in the United States. And I really think that the blindness journey is a global journey. There's blind people all over the world, um,
Mhm.
that I've had the privilege of speaking with, who have been telling me, ironically, a lot of the same stories over and over again, that this is how society is. Yes, I have dealt with people who have not been willing to challenge me in life. And that's very problematic, and that is a form of discrimination. We don't
Yeah.
always see it that way, but that's a form of discrimination that I personally take offense to. So I think you're 100% correct. It's not appropriate. It's not appropriate in the United States, but it still happens, and it's not appropriate in Mexico, but it still happens. So, unfortunately, this is how people are in our society, Alex. We will always deal with ignorant people, and people who don't know, and people who are just not kind and not able to understand things. That is a lot.
Yes.
We have a lot of those people even in America. We have ignorant people. It's a big problem. In the
Yes.
United, I mean, we have a big country, so statistically,
You know?
there's a lot of incredibly uninformed people in America.
Oh,
Some of
yeah.
them are ignorant on purpose. Other times they're just simply not aware of things, which is, as you hinted to it, it's a huge problem there in Mexico. Where, well, maybe if people actually had this knowledge, maybe if they listen to this episode of the podcast, maybe they'll be able to learn even more about this. A lot of this. And and our great friend Anna from Blind with a Vision, when she was talking to me a couple weeks ago, she had the same concern, and she expressed it a little bit in a different way, of course, but she said the same thing, that a lot of times a lot of these challenges can be solved if people only understood the truth and had the knowledge to get things done. But oftentimes, people are not knowledgeable about blindness and disability. So I think that's a really interesting point and a really important one. So yeah, so I mean, if someone wants to learn more about your organization, or if someone wants to help, your organization, I mean, of course, I was going to ask you on the WhatsApp, but of course, can you give me like the website so I can put the website in the description? Is it? Do you guys
Sure.
have a website for your
Yes,
organization?
we have a fan page on Facebook, which is what many people
That's
uses right
excellent.
now.
Sure, that's fine. So yeah, later on, yeah, at a later date, if you can send me that link, that
I
would be
can send you
great.
the
So
link. Yes.
yeah, that would be really good because people really need to be aware. Hey, I mean, just think of it, Alex. As I said, you're the first Mexican in Mexico to be on Aaron's Opinion. I've had other Mexicans living in other parts of the world who have spoken to me in the States, but you're the first Mexican in Mexico to be on Aaron's Opinion.
Oh,
So just think, hey, what if we get other Mexican listeners in the audience, and the hope, and what I am secretly concerned of, and Anna is not secretly concerned with this, she's very concerned about this, is that there
mhm.
are a lot of people in Mexico or other Latin American countries that desperately need this knowledge, that desperately need to know that your organization is there for them and cares. And you clearly care, or else you wouldn't be talking to some stranger on the internet, right? So, but the point is, we really need to get this message outwards. And your
Yes.
monologue was really perfect for someone who's so shy in English. I don't know what you're shy about. Your English was fine. It was a beautiful monologue. Um, but I am terribly concerned that I've noticed. I've been podcasting for 2 or 3 years. I've noticed that the majority of my audience is not from your region, and I've never seen the Mexican flag on my analytic tool. Now I know I will, because I know you're a fan of Aaron's Opinion eventually. But I think the point here is that there are a lot of people with disabilities in Mexico and in other Latin American countries that don't even know that you exist, that don't even
That's
know
right.
that your organization can and will help them. So I mean, this is a very concerning problem when you think of it from a disability standpoint, because surely, I mean, I don't know who they are, but I would imagine that there would be ways in the future for you or other blind people to work successfully in the civil service of Mexico. But I mean, yeah, but I mean, what do you think? I mean, you kind of gave me the idea that it would be very difficult for a blind person in Mexico, which I do not doubt that for a second. I'm sure it is. But I mean, do you know of any like agencies in the government there where a lot of the people with disabilities work, or would you say that it's still pretty difficult for blind people in Mexico to work in the civil service and things like that? What do you think?
Well, it's we are there is a lot of help, but I would say that it's concentrated mostly in the big cities like Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey, which are very big cities. But out of that, in the rest of the country, it's difficult. We are always looking to either going to Mexico City or to the nearest major city to the place where we are. And fortunately, things are changing. There are several nonprofit organizations in Mexico that are doing the same work that we are doing here in Puerto Vallarta. We are trying to get together and to, make a kind of a single front, or so that we can talk to the entire society in Mexico. Um, yeah, I am aware that obviously, as I was telling you before, that there is a lot of people, you know, well, I cannot give you the exact statistics, but we can agree that a major part of the population, the blind population in Mexico, is living below the poverty line. or what they call here in Mexico the poverty line, which is people that they don't have a job or they don't have an income that is good enough to make a good living, and that makes it difficult because they have no chance to get any education. They some of them, they don't even have the chance to get a phone line or anything, and that makes it really really hard for us to reach them, to help them. um, so what we do is, we are trying to get to those people and inform them, and depending on the situation, sometimes we provide them with computers, with telephones, with material, or types of material, to write in braille. um, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to
Mm-hmm.
do. Some don't even have the chance to buy a cane, their own cane, so we have to provide them.
Understood. And
Yes,
this isn't just your problem. It seems like, I know that it seems like it's your problem because you're you're the one who has to do all the work and figure it out. But
yeah.
this is not just you. This is, I mean, we have these problems in the United States as well, which is
Oh
why
yeah,
the first thing. No, no, of course, it's incredibly difficult there. I'm by no means, I am not trying to say for even a heartbeat of a second that it's easier or more difficult. I'm not comparing. I'm just saying we have serious problems with the disability community in the states. But the first thing that we can do to help is talk about it. Come to this podcast, have a conversation with me,
yes.
and just get the word out. Just get
Create
the
awareness.
just and I'm not saying, by no means, I'm not saying that getting awareness out and getting the word out is the only thing that will solve the problem. It's absolutely not the only thing that needs to happen. But without any doubt, it's one of the most important things. Because if people don't know, remember, there's a lot of people in your region that don't know who you are yet. They will after I
Hmm.
publish this, and they should know who you are because you're a great person, and they should
You
know
would be
that you're doing.
surprised
Yes, yes.
that I don't know if you knew, but a couple of weeks ago we got hit by a hurricane. It
You
was
know, I
called
know.
Hurricane Nora.
Yeah, we've been having a lot of hurricanes here in the
Oh
states
yes,
lately. Oh yes.
actually, well, it's hurricane season in both sides, in the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, what happened here is that we got hit by one of these big hurricanes. Actually, it was cat one, which wasn't that frightening. However, it hit right in the downtown area of Puerto Vallarta. So
Oh
it was so
gosh.
hard. I mean, it was so hard that one four-story building crumbled,
Oh
two
my.
rivers overflowed, and
Yeah.
two bridges completely collapsed. It was really, really hard.
That's horrible.
The rivers
Look,
create a lot of destruction.
sure, Alex. I'm very sorry about that.
Uh-huh.
I don't mean to cut you off by any means, but I just want you to know it's truly been a pleasure having you here, and know that you're a
Thank
forever member of Aaron's Opinion.
you.
And you'll be added to my WhatsApp group. You can talk to all of our guests from around the world. Even, hey, even Anna's in there. You can talk to Anna on my group. But
That's what I was gonna say. I talk too much, but on YouTube there were lots of news about this, and a
mhm.
lot of American people. So I'm sure that there is a lot of American community English speaking people that will know about your podcast.
I appreciate it. So, of course, as I like to say, we're coming to the end of the hour. I like to record for an hour.
Thank
I
you.
think that's good.
Hmm.
And of course, I know that we will record again anytime you like, so you can keep telling your story. You're always welcome. You're always welcome
Thank
on
you.
this podcast. Anytime you need to talk to me, you're welcome 100% of the time. But I don't know if you've listened to my content before or gone through any of my videos in the past, but you know how I end these episodes by saying, "It's been a pleasure having you here."
Well,
Um,
it's a
and
pleasure.
and I always like to say, if you can if you can ask me only one question to really make me sweat to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster, what do you want to ask me?
Wow. That was, oh, I wasn't expecting. Well, I don't know. I'm sorry for the dog.
I
It's
love
my neighborhood.
dogs.
Yes. Okay. Well, I don't know. Really, you caught me off guard. But I would say that instead of asking you for for a question, I just want to congratulate you because I mean, creating a podcast is it sounds something that it's easy, but it's not. And keep on pushing and creating content and making sure that it gets to the people. I mean, that's really something, and I really thank you for doing that job because you are making you know people notice us as a blind community.
Perfect.
So thank you
Ab-
so much for that.
and I could not have asked to end it on a better note. Thank you so much, Alex. You are always welcome here. I'm glad that you
Thank
love the
you.
podcast, and just keep up your great work as well. And of course, we'll talk anytime you like. All right, everybody.
Excellent.
All right, everybody. Excellent recording. Excellent episode. Thanks so much.